Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to consider Senate Joint Resolution Number 3, taking into consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 26. This is the joint resolution urging the National Telecommunications Commission to issue a provisional authority or license to Starlink Internet Services Philippines Inc. So move, Mr. President.
There an objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Consideration of Senate Joint Resolution Number 3, taking into consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 26 is now in order. Secretary will read the title of the resolution.
Joint resolution urging the National Telecommunications Commission to issue a provisional authority license to Starlink Internet Services Philippines Inc., allowing it to build, own, and operate satellite ground stations pending final determination of its application for a congressional franchise.
To sponsor the measure, I move to recognize Senator Grace Poe. So move, Mr. President.
Senator Grace Poe recognized.
Mr. President, internet access is a sorry for the lateness of the hour for me, but Mr. President, internet access is a universal human right. This principle, declared by no less than the United Nations, reflects the reality of our interconnected world. Connectivity is not a privilege but a gateway to upholding and exercising countless other human rights. Also known as the freedom to connect, the government pushes for internet inclusivity. As a result, we now have programs like the free public Wi-Fi program, the National Fiber Backbone Project, and laws that support the digital agenda like the amendments to the Public Service Act or PSA, which finally allowed the entry of foreign players that can provide better internet services to geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas.
Is this a typographical error? Free? Can you read it?
A free public Wi-Fi program.
Ba't nawala yung L?
Ano sabi ko?
Free pubic. Nakalagay. Is it an error or?
You know, this really won't. This will definitely will pass scrutiny of our president officer. I'm sorry.
All right.
Bakit tanggal nga yan? I apologize for that.
Was it
Mr.
intentional?
President. I don't know. It probably is a Freudian slip by whoever was making this slide.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. May I also ask our colleagues to please tone it down a little bit because it's hard for me to hear myself delivering this. Okay. Babalikan ko na lang. Also known as the freedom to connect, the government pushes for internet inclusivity. As a result, we now have programs like the free public Wi-Fi program, the National Fiber Backbone Project, and laws that support the digital agenda like the amendments to the Public Service Act. Ngunit sa kabila nito, marami pa rin Pilipino ang unconnected. Data from the DICT shows that at least 65% of Filipinos are still without internet access, 30 years after the Philippines first connected to the internet in 1994. Loading pa rin ang internet sa mga unserved and underserved areas due to the difficulty of putting up infrastructure in remote communities and isolated islands. Infrastructure challenges have left the Philippines ranking 56th out of 169 countries in the 2024 Internet Poverty Index by the World Data Lab. So ibig sabihin, wala pa nga tayo sa average speed or average internet connectivity. We're below average. This translates to almost 16% of Filipinos considered internet poor. While we have seen incremental improvements in our download speeds, rising from 91.7 Mbps in 2023 to 94.42 Mbps in 2024, we remain significantly behind our neighbors. The Philippines ranks third from the bottom, trailing far behind Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. This reality underscores the pressing need for sustained investments and policy interventions to elevate our performance to regional standards. Ngunit mayroon pang pag-asa. The entry of Starlink satellite technology on our shores enabled access to our most remote and isolated communities without the need for massive infrastructure. Since receiving authorizations from the NTC and the DICT in 2022, Starlink has provided internet access to households, schools, businesses, and government offices in far-flung areas. Even our very own COMELEC has tapped Starlink to ensure that the 2025 elections will not be hampered by signal issues. Government agencies and NGOs are also leveraging Starlink for many of its significant programs. For example, the Philippine Space Agency has utilized Starlink for the Incentivize project, which brings free internet to students and local government offices in islands like Humalig in Quezon and other remote areas like Barangay Dika Panikyan in Aurora. Starlink satellites were also distributed by DepEd, some LGUs, and nonprofit organizations to schools in far-flung communities in Palawan and Cebu. It was also installed to help ensure high-speed internet for the video conferencing court proceedings in remote areas such as Bangao RTC in Tawi-Tawi. Ito po yung report sa atin ng ating mga justices nung sila'y pumunta dito na because of Starlink, they're able to conduct hearings in Tawi-Tawi. The Office of Civil Defense and the NDRRMC also used it to address cell signal disruptions and secure communication lines in calamity-stricken areas like Batanes, Batangas, and more recently in the areas affected by the eruption of Mount Canlaon. Starlink is also used in isolated military detachments like the one in Balabac, Palawan. An NGO donated 3 Starlink kits to the Philippine Navy troops stationed in Pag-asa Island to help them attain reliable online connectivity despite being detached from the Palawan mainland. The Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority also received unmanned aerial vehicles or drones paired with a Starlink internet unit from the United States to augment the emergency response capabilities of the Freeport and its fire and law enforcement departments. This is how portable it is, Mr. President. Some of our colleagues here can attest to Starlink's relevance. Case in point, Senator Lauren Legarda spearheaded the installation of Starlink at Lacaron Integrated School in Sibalom, Antique, which faced connectivity challenges due to its remote location in a hilly and upland area. Patunay ito na ang koneksyon ay oportunidad. Sa pagkonekta ng bawat Pilipino sa internet ay may nagbubukas na pinto sa mas magandang kinabukasan. In support of initiatives on disaster response, digital and inclusive education, healthcare, military support, and expansive legal services, Starlink has deployed 250 satellite dishes worth $7.5 million to strengthen connectivity and resilience in key sectors of our country. To date, Starlink has invested 600 million pesos in its operations in the Philippines, which reaffirms its confidence in the local market's immense potential. However, Starlink faces challenges within our regulatory framework. While it plans to expand its coverage using gateway ground stations, it risks falling within the gray area of the 93-year-old radio control law, which requires radio stations to have a congressional franchise. Ngunit, applicable pa ba ang batas na ito sa makabagong teknolohiya tulad ng satellite internet? It is hard to imagine that a 1931 law could have foreseen the technological advancements behind satellite ground or earth stations like those used by Starlink. These stations, which are critical to modern satellite internet, are fundamentally different from traditional radio stations, which the antiquated legislation aims to regulate. Magkaiba naman po ang service niyan. The construction and operation of earth stations serve as ancillary infrastructure and should not be conflated with direct broadcast facilities. Before Starlink's entry into the Philippines, constitutional and legal barriers restricted fully foreign-owned companies like SpaceX. The landscape changed in 2022 with the passage of the Republic Act number 11659, amending the PSA, which I proudly authored and principally sponsored. The groundbreaking reform lifted foreign ownership restrictions for industries classified as public services, paving the way for global tech innovators like Starlink to operate in the Philippines. But even before the new PSA was passed, in 2021, Executive Order number 127 already liberalized the provision of satellite broadband services, removing barriers to market entry for private entities seeking to deploy broadband technologies, including satellite services. Section 2 of Executive Order 127 explicitly allows value-added services and internet service providers to build and operate broadband facilities to offer internet services. Moreover, the DICT Circular Number 2, Series of 2021, which implements EO 127, defines broadband facilities to include earth stations, satellite equipment, routers, and other related infrastructure. This framework empowers Starlink to construct and operate satellite earth stations under the NTC regulatory oversight without requiring a legislative franchise. Mr. President, Starlink's operations align seamlessly with the government's objectives to bridge the digital divide by providing internet access to underserved and remote communities. Requiring them to secure a legislative franchise would run counter to the principles of deregulation and liberalization enshrined in our laws and policies. It would unnecessarily delay the rollout of critical infrastructure necessary for nationwide connectivity. Nonetheless, the question of whether Starlink as a satellite internet provider must secure a franchise is a matter best referred to the committees of primary referral. Starlink has taken the proactive step by seeking a franchise. Already filed in both Congresses are House Bill number 10954 and Senate Bill number 2844. However, given the urgency of the matter, Starlink is requesting a temporary license from the NTC to put up ground stations while awaiting congressional approval. Once given authority, Starlink plans to put up 14 ground stations all over the country. Ground stations are facilities on the ground that link space satellites to terrestrial internet infrastructure for signal transmission. Think of these stations as the intermediaries that enable smooth communication between satellites and the internet. It's there on the screen. These ground stations, or points of reference, are vital in improving the capacity of Starlink's satellite internet system. Importante ang infrastrukturang ito para sa mabilis at maayos na pag-transfer ng data, lalo na sa mga lugar kung saan limitado ang connectivity. Kung wala ang mga gateway na ito, maantala ang serbisyo ng Starlink. The efficiency, speed, and low latency connectivity that Starlink promises may be compromised. It is against this backdrop that I'm asking my colleagues to support the adoption of a resolution in whatever form, whether concurrent or joint, urging the National Telecommunications Commission to grant provisional authority to Starlink. The House of Representatives has filed a counterpart resolution on this matter under House Joint Resolution number 21. under RA number 11659, EO number 127, DICT circular number 02, the NTC has the jurisdiction to issue such provisional licenses without diminishing, and I repeat, without diminishing Congress's authority. This temporary measure guarantees that infrastructure development can proceed without delay, ensuring continuity for Starlink's growing subscriber base. By granting this provisional authority, we ensure that Starlink can continue connecting us without delay, bringing life-changing connectivity to more communities, especially those in hard-to-reach places. This resolution represents a decisive step towards bridging the digital divide, uplifting underserved communities, and fortifying our nation's digital resilience. By approving this measure, the Senate doubles down on its commitment to fostering technological innovation, championing equitable progress, and safeguarding the connectivity essential to the Philippines' future. Let us act decisively to ensure no one is left behind in this digital revolution. Mr. President, let us seize this opportunity to shape a future where every Filipino is empowered by connectivity. I now humbly urge the Senate's consideration of the approval and adoption of Senate Joint Resolution Number 3. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Grace. Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is to just give a manifestation of support and perhaps co-sponsor also the measure. Mr. President, may I just place into the records my sincerest thanks and gratitude to our good sponsor, Senator Grace Poe, for sponsoring this resolution. Mr. President, we also would like to put into the records of this August chamber that we fully agree with our Senate President, Chis Escudero, who delivered an important message this afternoon, considering that we are an archipelagic nation and providing reliable and affordable internet connectivity nationwide is truly a great challenge, Mr. President. In the 1987 Constitution states that communications and information play a vital role in nation building. However, Mr. President, based on 2024 World Bank report, our internet connectivity is the most expensive in Southeast Asia, but is relatively slow compared to our neighbors in Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Brunei. And this is why, Mr. President, it is not surprising that 65% of Filipinos are still not connected to the internet. Granting provisional authority, as mentioned a while ago by the distinguished lady from Iloilo and Pangasinan, Senator Grace Poe, granting provisional authority to Starlink, an internet service provider with global coverage, presents a significant opportunity to address this digital divide. Ginoong Pangulo, kung mabibigyan po ng provisional authority ang Starlink, hiling ko lang po, Ginoong Pangulo, ang hiling po natin na hindi lamang po maging mas mabilis at mas reliable ang ating koneksyon. Sana po ay lalo pang mapababa ang presyo nito upang maging abot kaya para po sa nakararami nating mga kababayan. Ginoong Pangulo, ako po ay isa sa mga buhay na patotoo. I would say I'm a living testimony as to how Starlink operates. And I would say, Mr. President, that they are far, far better than what is available right now in the market. A better internet connectivity, Mr. President, will enhance access to education, access to healthcare, commerce, and government services. It is also aligned with the government's push toward digital transformation that will encourage economic growth and global competitiveness. And so with that, Mr. President, we join the call of our distinguished colleagues here in the Senate, urging the National Telecommunications Commission in issuing a provisional authority or license to Starlink. Marami pong salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Thank you, Senator Joel. The minority,
Yeah.
Senator
Co-sponsors.
Gatchalian,
Mr. President, may I deliver my co-sponsorship speech.
please proceed.
I rise today to co-sponsor the current resolution urging the National Telecommunications Commission to grant Starlink Internet Services Philippines a provisional authority to build, own, and operate satellite ground stations while its congressional franchise application is being deliberated. This resolution serves as a vital action to bridge the digital divide and unlock opportunities for millions of Filipinos. For decades, the lack of reliable internet connectivity has been a persistent barrier to progress, particularly for those in remote and underserved communities. Isipin natin, maging ang pinakamalayong isla o pinakamataas na bundok, magagamit na ng ating mga kababayan ang internet para sa pag-aaral, trabaho at komunikasyon. Beyond this, the value of robust satellite internet is undeniable in times of disasters. When typhoons, earthquakes, or floods destroy traditional telecommunication infrastructure, satellite networks remain operational. For a country like the Philippines, ranked among the most disaster-prone in the world, this capability is indeed essential. This initiative aligns seamlessly with our broader legislative agenda for digital transformation. Through our proposed Digital Transformation of Basic Education Act, we aim to fast-track the deployment of free public Wi-Fi in all public schools in line with the Free Internet Access in Public Places Act. Starlink satellite technology complements this vision, ensuring no school, whether in the heart of the city or the remotest barangay, is left behind in the digital age. While Starlink already possesses the necessary regulatory accreditations to provide satellite internet services, the construction and operation of satellite ground stations will further enhance their capacity to deliver. However, the lengthy timelines associated with securing a congressional franchise could delay this critical expansion. By granting provisional authority, we enable Starlink to act immediately, ensuring that the benefits of their technology reach our people without unnecessary delays. In view of the aforementioned benefits to our society, I also urge our fellow legislators, including our counterparts in the House of Representatives, to prioritize and deliberate on the franchise application of Starlink. Before I end, allow me to express my gratitude to the sponsor of this resolution, Senator Grace Poe, for championing this timely and significant proposed measure. This is a step toward ensuring that no Filipino, regardless of geography or circumstance, is left behind in our nation's pursuit of progress. Let us act decisively to support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian, Minority Leader. Yes, please. Please proceed.
I'm aware of the lateness of the hour, but if the sponsor of the measure will accept maybe just one question, Mr. President.
Gladly, Mr. President, to clarify also.
Meron na pong mga Starlink antennas ngayon at na-access na natin ang Starlink satellite services. So, it's functioning. And some are benefiting, some are enjoying now the access. So, why is there, kasi ang panawagan ng ating resolution nata is for the NTC to issue a provisional authority for Starlink to establish ground stations. So, why is there a need for this measure when the service can already be accessed as of the moment, Mr. President?
Mr. President, actually, having those ground stations will maximize the full potential of Starlink's connectivity. And we know this because, for example, in certain areas, you do get signal. But then, if you have these ground stations, I assume it will be faster. There are more a wider coverage of the services that can be provided by Starlink. So it's basically there, expansion and better service.
So, That's the reason, Mr. President. So you will just make it off record. So thank you for that, Mr. President.
Oh, thank you also
Thank you, Minority Leader.
Mr. President, before
Yes, Senator Po.
I'd like to... Grabe namang mampatay ng itong mga... Hindi ba daw... yes, yes. I need... no, first I'd like to thank our colleagues for their support. And I can assure you that this is really for the betterment of our countrymen. And I'd like to thank also, especially Senator Joel Villanueva for mentioning my name 3 times to acknowledge my contribution to this. Senator, our resident electrical engineer, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also for acknowledging, and Senator Cheese Escudero, our Senate President, who also filed this resolution and is one of those main authors. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Zubiri.
Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you,
President, may
Senator
also be
Grace.
made a co-sponsor, co-author of this resolution. I am in full support of Starlink. I've seen what they've done in many nations, Mr. President. They are what Elon Musk and his Starlink has done to bring back communication to people from areas that had no internet connections. Napakagaling. And maybe soon, Mr. President, if the Starlink gentlemen are listening together with Senator Grace, maybe they can also introduce to the country their Starlink telecommunications telco. I believe in Singapore, they have a telco, it's satellite. Their cell phone does not need this, you don't need a tower anymore, Mr. President. Satellite na siya. So yung cell phone, you're in the middle of the jungle, you will have cell site. Ganun kagaling ang bagong Starlink na telecommunication, the telco product it can service. So one day, maybe we can get the services of the telcos of Starlink here in the country as well. And it will be for the whole country. Whether you're in Apari or in Tawi-Tawi, you will have a cell signal with their system.
That will be beneficial to all Filipinos,
Absolutely, Mr.
especially in the rural areas. Yes, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, the Senate President would like to insert to the records his sponsorship
The
speech
Senate
for
President.
Senate Joint Resolution number 3.
The co-sponsorship speech of the Senate President is hereby inserted into the records.
Mr. President, no member wishes to interpolate or propose amendments to the measure. I move to adopt Senate Resolution number 3, take into consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution number 26, subject to style. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Joint Resolution number 3, taking into consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution number 26, subject to style, is hereby adopted. Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Mr. Foreigner.